when someone was crying and talking about, let's say, the father had died recently, and they're overwhelmed by emotion, and they start to say this, then I noticed that I was able to be calm and receive the message as they're sharing, and not need to give an answer. But the body felt compelled to go over and give them a hug. So there was practice needed within that, which was done through forest bathing and through ecotherapy as well, which is using the forest. So throughout that learning process, it was really comforting to have the forest there, because, we learned that the forest is, so it's divided into three: the participants, the facilitator, and the forest. So straight away, I'm not under pressure. Whereas if you think you're doing something as a facilitator, and this is my circle, and I'm running the show here, there's a lot of pressure, and then you also feel like you have to talk more as well, and have answers. So there's not much wiggle room if you're the teacher. So being the student is where you want to be at.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out, Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth and spirituality. My name's Maxi, I'm your host, and what you are hearing in the background is my dishwasher. Yeah, it's true. So let me paint the picture for you real quick. I'm sitting here in my living room / kitchen, just made dinner, and I am 100% committed to bring you this episode tomorrow. So I'm gonna be editing all night, because I feel like this is such an important episode to be shared and released with you guys and the public and all the people who want to find authentic connection to themselves through nature, through each other, through commitment to responsibility, through confrontation, and much more. Today I'm speaking with Luke Walsh from The Healing Forest. The Healing Forest is a piece of land, a forest, dedicated solely for therapeutic purposes. And Luke is the owner of that forest, as well as the leading facilitator of the Healing Forest. Alongside with his wife, he is offering a variety of services like forest bathing, guided forest walks, kundalini, as well as shamanic healing practices, Reiki, and much more. I discovered him through an interview of his own podcast, the Healing Forest podcast, which for me as a podcaster was an enormous inspiration. The way that Luke holds space for his guests, such as Mark. Mark, if you're listening to this, I've been following you as well for so long, and you are inspiring me. I'm looking up to you, and I adore what you're doing. So this is just like a little hug from me, a virtual one. And he spoke with Luke, and the way that Luke guided this conversation was just unbelievably inspiring for me as somebody who is also asking questions on this platform and who wants to authentically connect to other people. And I was just very inspired. And so I wanted to know more about Luke's background. I wanted to know how he learned to hold space like that, because he also shared a lot about the path that led him to be able to become the man that he is today, to hold space for other men with Sacred Sons, for example, the way that he does, how he learned what surrender really means, and much, much more. How we can find healing in the forest, how can we connect authentically to nature, and how it reveals things about our own nature. I mean, it's just these conversations, honestly, I mean, it's really don't know what to say. It's so special because I'm learning so much, and through your feedback, I'm receiving that it does something for you as well, and it just doesn't change, you know. I keep repeating myself, but it's honestly just one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever did in my life. And I just want to thank every single one of you who taking the time, like 1, 2, sometimes with Vince, 3 hours of a conversation. I mean, it's just like, it's never taken for granted. So with that episode as well, or like with this one, please know that, okay? Like, I deeply appreciate that. And that being said, you know, if you know more people that might find, you know, want to heal, want to have authentic relationships, want to know more about the polarity between the masculine and the feminine, who want to, I don't know, become well-versed in meditation, who want to understand how we as humans work, all of those things that we are discussing here on the podcast, you know, forward it and just share it from your heart, like I do with mine. And just so many amazing things come from that. And so this is just a testament to that. And I sincerely hope that you stay with me and stick with me. And yeah, because there's so much more coming up, honestly. I'm so excited. Yeah, so anyway, it was such a privilege to talk to Luke. Thank you so much, brother, for taking the time, and I'm gonna make sure to visit him. Also, something that comes out of those conversations are just like authentic relationships and bonds that, you know, those conversations basically are the result of, because yeah, I don't know, it's just, they just help me to connect to people that I authentically find inspiring, and then also to hopefully see them soon and connect to them in real life and learn from them and grow within myself. You know, how do I become a better man? How do I become someone who is able to, you know, look at my own shit and not project it on somebody else, and so much more. And Luke is just a prime example of that, because he lived through it. You know, he walks the talk, and he just does amazing things. So thank you, Luke, and thank you to all of you. With all that being said, I bring you the Healing Forest and Luke Walsh. So yeah, let me first start off with something I wanted to share with you again, which I previously shared. So, I spent a lot of time with you in some shape or form over the last couple of days, preparing for this conversation and going deep in the stuff that I could get my hands on when it comes to the Healing Forest and your work, and the conversations that you had, what's been said about the Healing Forest from other people, what they've experienced there, basically everything that I could, just get my hands on. And it was a very, very beautiful experience. And I told you that also reaching out to you before via email, that, you know, there's like a tremendous, I don't know, some sort of connection or like some sort of resonance I have with how you are in the world and what you bring, that is, I don't know, touching me at a very deep level. And I just know that, you know, that you bring a lot of healing and beautiful things into the world. And I first and foremost just wanted to say thank you for that service and that gift that you bring. And I see you and I believe that many other people do so as well. And I just wanted to express that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful, moving words. A lovely sentiment, and a lovely thing to receive on a morning here in Ireland. So, I'm just letting that land, I suppose, and I try not to have attachment to kind of what others think and feel about the offering. Myself and my wife, we offer what we feel is coming through us and what we need, as well as what other people may find value in. But if we were dependent on feedback and kind of the market, then we wouldn't be doing what we do. So I really appreciate you putting the research in and kind of connecting, not just on a surface level, but also seeing me. Yeah, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It just really stuns me that the Healing Forest podcast is something that you've as you've shared, is something that you've done, or that you just started doing, because the way that you are interacting with people and holding space for them in those conversations is just, I don't know, it's just like makes me wonder if you ever did anything else in your life, because it's just like so effortlessly and different also. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and I'm consuming a lot of content and stuff, and obviously I'm doing it myself. And so, and it just did something because it's going deeper. It's very sincere. It's coming from a sincere place. And basically, maybe that being said, moving into the first question is, how did you become the man that you are today, to be able to, hold space like this and have conversations like this?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, thank you. So it's still a work in progress. So where I'm at now is based on my reaction or my response to life experiences. So I was in construction for a long time, and I thought life was great and everything's going well. And then a crisis came along, which was my daughter. She's 18 now, but when she was kind of 12 and 13, she had a lot of mental health issues. She was being bullied in school, and I think that kind of triggered a few things, rebelling against what our guidance, I suppose, and the way that we had been bringing her up, the way that we had been raising her. She basically said no to that for about 4 years, I'd say. And our standards and our guidance and our suppression of her true nature, and both of us, myself and my wife, dictating to her about what she should and shouldn't do. We kind of thought we might have until she was 18 or 19 until that happened, but she was doing that at 12 and 13 and correcting us for our parenting. So that was the start of that. And it went more and more kind of extreme over the years. So she joined a gang, and she was in a really rough area in Dublin. Lots of hurtful things said, and lots of going missing and just leaving the house without saying anything, and then we wouldn't see her for 2 days, which is a lot for the way that I previously viewed her as my little girl, So within within maybe 2 years, she went from my little girl to me seeing her, me having to see her as a woman. Even though she was only 14 years old, let's say, I had to view her as a woman because she was doing things that were very dangerous. Staying out all night, walking back home, like an hour of a walk at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on her own and stuff like that. So I had to give in, and I had to accept. I had to let go of control, and so I had my own path along the way, and I went into self-development and books and podcasts, and Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment, was quite appropriately named. Anything I could get my hands on, breath work, meditation. I hadn't done any of those things beforehand. So that was the crisis point that made me search. So yeah, I mean, just to put it into context, so she tried to take her own life many times. Thinking like it could be 10 or 12 or 14 times. So even after the first one or two, I was like, I must be the worst father in the world if she doesn't want to be around anymore. So this was repeating, and this was repeating for quite a while. So it was coming back to me, and then me taking responsibility and putting that into action of what do I want to change. So it did go to the self-centered place for about a year, I'd say, of me feeling sorry for myself. And then it kicked into a bit of courage of taking action and giving her space, because I was still fussing over her at that stage. So then I stepped back and I gave her the space to do whatever she wanted, even though she was already doing that as far as I was aware. And the space is what allowed her to express herself, and then she knew that I was steady, that I was doing the work my own way, and then we could meet when the time is right in between. Instead of her coming to me, meeting me where I'm at, there was a point in the middle that she was able to edge closer when she was ready. So yeah, from that, the Healing Forest was birthed. We couldn't get much counselling and stuff like that for her, so we wanted to have a place that we needed for our daughter at that time. So that's how we got into that, and we upskilled, and we went to college, and we did lots of courses along the way, but we just couldn't get enough of it. We were making up for lost time, kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, that is, I don't have children as of yet, but I feel it. It's, I think, pretty unimaginable what that experience must be like for, like you say, seeing, your little girl that you once held up, and then just, you have to surrender to what the world, is doing to all of us, and eventually turn that into something that's happening for us. And that shift, powerful to make that shift and the transition. So a lot of stuff that I would love to explore, and stuff that you just touched on when sharing that. There's a lot, again, like a very, very beautiful synchronicity with Michael Singer. He's one of my, if not the greatest teacher of mine as well. I've been following him for years, and actually I'm going to visit him in October, going to the US and going to the Temple of the Universe. And who knows, my manifestation and my heart's wish is to speak to him also on the podcast. Let's see if that works out. But either way, you know, I'm just gonna talk to him and just connect with him in some shape or form, and I've done so already. And so basically, what I would first like to explore a little bit more, when you said, you know, you had to see her as a woman, and to make that transition of, wow, she's a woman, and she's her own, you know, she's making those decisions, and her soul, or her, in this incarnation, she decides to have those experiences. And where's your place in that as somebody who's more caring and loving towards her than probably anyone in this world besides your wife? So I would be curious to, what does that mean exactly for you? When you say she's a woman, like what makes any what is that transition like from a girl to a woman, and maybe also for us men eventually? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just on a side note there, when I was hearing your reflections, I was just feeling that there was a part of it that was how I thought it may go, and then there was a part that the way it actually went. So I thought I could protect her, and I never even thought of protecting her from herself. So that's what took me a long time to. It was confusion and, you know, helplessness, but when she was doing things to herself, you know, she was choosing to go out at this time and hang around with these people and do these kind of things to herself. So it was, I mean, I always thought, I can enforce something, or I can beat up someone, or I can protect her, and I can be physical with someone else, and we can move house, we can move area, whatever it is. But that didn't matter. You know, that was the fixer, that was the masculine coming in and trying to look after everything. But that was just dispelled, like that was just broken, because that wasn't the way it could go. So there was a lot of confusion at the time. So me seeing her as a woman, for me, that meant, because it brought up a lot within me then. So when I see my mother, she still sees me as a child. You know, she doesn't see me as a grown man. She sees me as her child or her son. So, which it holds back a relationship. You know, if you're not talking to someone adult to adult, the conversation it can be inappropriate at times and can be condescending if there's a hierarchy and they're talking down to. So my role with my daughter was to hold space for her, and that was it. That's as simple as it gets. Whereas when I saw her as my daughter, then I felt like I had to teach her something all the time. So she would say, she just bought a car there yesterday, but she had 2 other cars beforehand. So when she bought the car, you know, if I'm seeing her as my daughter, I would say, I'll make sure you do this, and you know that you always have to get it serviced, and make sure you don't drink drive. And next thing, she doesn't want to get a car because I'm overloading her with all this. She's scared of a car now because I'm trying to protect her with all these negative things, really, which is the father role that comes in. Whereas there's not much learning in that for her. So when I see her adult to adult, it's like an open conversation, and it's more curiosity based, really. And the learning is reciprocal. So I'm learning more from her, really, than she is from me. So that would be that part of it. I see her as a woman because she's taken responsibility for her own actions. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings up something that I was speaking to Vince Matoska Sheffin about. He's one of the space holders from Sacred Sons. And I had the pleasure of speaking with him twice and also meeting him at my place. We did a live podcast at my place while he was in Germany. And we spoke a lot about that, about taking that responsibility and moving from that. You know, you as a father, you're supposed to have the book for life with all the instructions, all the manuals, you know, all the answers. And once we start shifting this sort of, this relationship, this dynamic, and start, it's exactly what you said, going into this sort of like being curious for the human and meeting eye to eye, and connecting on that level, without this hierarchy of a relationship and all of the expectations and all of that stuff that is coming along with that. A whole new relationship starts to emerge. And when looking at my own life and the relationship with my parents, that work, and those conversations I share, also like hours now, that's like that. This is me also growing and maturing and taking responsibility, and being then able to have those conversations with my parents and showing up that way. Like, how was that for you, Dad? How was it growing up like that? No judgment, which I so much did in the past, having all of those opinions, and how can you do this X, Y, and Z to me, but I was just not seeing the child also within him. And then I looked at some photos of him as a child. My God, so innocent, so pure, and then I see myself, and like it's just, it's a mirror, and but it's a journey that, it's really within my own development, and maturing. And so what I'm saying is, as you're sharing that, there's so much happening for so many people who hear this, and so is for me. So it's very, very special. Thank you. Now, with a lot of things that are happening in the world, and stuff like you are describing with, and situations like you're describing with your daughter are, basically what Michael Singer would describe as some samskaras, or potential for some samskaras, big, probably traumatic events that really, if we don't take care of it appropriately, they stay with us and they influence our whole life. So I'd be curious to hear from you how you, what does surrender mean to you, and what did it introduce into your life, and how did it help you to navigate those situations?
Yeah. Okay, so surrender is a letting go of control. So letting go of control to what was the issue. So it comes back to having faith. So having faith was such a huge pivotal part within that for me. So when my daughter was doing all these things that I was blowing out of proportion really in my mind, and letting these stories run and expand and grow in scale. I was kind of shaking with anxiety, like physically shaking and not sleeping much. So there was a build-up of energy that couldn't be displaced. So it could be displaced when I was trying to control things, but this I couldn't control. So first time ever I meditated. I didn't even know what meditation was, but I'd heard you just lie down and you try to think of nothing or clear the mind, so I did that. So there was no guided, no music, no nothing, and there was an out of body experience that I had. So I lay down in my bed and there was an outer body, so I felt myself floating up above my body. But this, I would relate this back to how stressed I was. If I was calm, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But that gave me an insight to something else that was possible, and it gave me a faith that what we're living day to day is not everything. So from then on, I had a faith that everything would work out for me. There's a higher power, there's a greater plan for me. And if I can speak things into existence, and I can manifest, and I can, I can produce like where I want to go to, the direction that I would like to, the things that I want to achieve in my heart, from my heart, not like logically, business wise or anything like that. And usually it works when I keep those things simple. When I am in alignment with that, then I get visions or I get dreams, and then it's up to me to act them out in the physical kind of world, let's say. So the healing forest, I never even knew what that was. So then I just had this dream about the healing forest, or a healing forest. I was like, well, yeah, I do live in a forest and I have lived here, but I never looked at it that way at all. It's healing. That sounds very odd, So next morning then I started Googling it, and it turns out there's healing forests all over the world, but there's none in Ireland. So a healing forest is a forest that's dedicated to therapeutic use only. So no dogs, no mountain bikers, no, it's just for a singular kind of use. So I started looking into it, and each country has different criteria. So I compiled kind of the different criteria, and I felt like whatever was useful within, whatever resonated in the criteria, I condensed it to like 12 aspects that I felt were necessary and applicable to our forest. So our forest is 33.3 acres of native natural Irish woodland. And so then I would go around. So there's certain seating areas and certain philosophies around it. So if you get someone from the inner city and you put them in the middle of the forest, it's overwhelming. So there has to be an easing into the forest and an easing out. And a safety. And how do you create the safety in a forest when someone thinks that they might be attacked by some animal, that it's not going to happen? But so there is a facilitation part there. There's a guiding. There is an actual physical setup as well. So in even seeing certain kind of aspects within the forest, when you're in awe and wonder in certain areas, then that shifts your mindset. So you come out of anxiety and depression and you're in awe and wonder. So there are aspects. There's like an arch. There's a load of bird boxes on a tree that you wouldn't think no one would think of doing. So when people see this, they do go to a state of kind of awe and wonder, and curiosity. So these things would just, I'd be working in the forest, and then that night I would go home and I'd sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd draw things, and I'd journal, and there was something else coming in, and I didn't need to name it as something. It's just that I was open to receive, and that's what I had the faith in. But people around me were, no one will pay you to go for a walk in the forest. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You need to go back to construction. You need to do the, we need to pay the bills and all this. But I had faith in what I was doing and what I was being guided to do. And the doubt spurred me on as well. If it was sometimes when someone is fully on board with the idea, it can nearly be off-putting, because they're more excited about it than I am, So it was an interesting process that I was being doubted, and then that made me more determined. So so that's how I would say the pivotal kind of point was acknowledging that everything would work out for me. So having faith was a big part.
Yeah, I got chills now, because I would ask you, like, was there an experience, or where did that trust come from for you to trust, to develop this faith?
I think I was very raw, due to everything I believed was kind of crushed really by my daughter. I thought I was a good father. She brought everything into question. So I would be waiting for her down, to collect her at a certain time, 10 o'clock at night or something like that. And we had agreed, it was beside the train station, 10 o'clock at night, and she wouldn't be there, and I'd just be waiting in my car. And I noticed my mind would be telling me all sorts of things, like, she's over there behind the trees laughing at me with her friends. She hates me. She could be dead. She is probably drunk. All this stuff. It just went on, and it was at a much quicker pace than that. It was like an overload, and a lot of the time there was quite a few different stories running. So I came across this woman, Byron Katie. So it's basically loving what is. So all that, none of that was going on. So once I asked the question, is it true? It's like, no. So each time a thought came in, I was like, so is that true? So my daughter is over there hiding behind the bushes. Is that true? And it's like, no, it's not. And then the story stopped running there. And then another story would come in, and I'd ask, is this true? And there's no way I can know it's true. So it just I kept on disproving the thoughts, and I had nothing else to do. Sometimes I'd wait there for 3 hours because I felt like this is the right thing to do, to be there for her. I'm her father. This is what fathers do. There was going into houses. There was walking around the estates, which were really rough estates that you wouldn't want to be walking around at night time. So I was walking around looking for her, and asking people had they seen her and stuff like that. Going into houses, you wouldn't, like, people were squatting in the houses and stuff like that. So it wasn't a place that you'd like to be by choice, really. So yeah, when that was going on, I was sitting in the car and I was doing the work. I was doing the work. Just keep on doing the work. And I kept on showing up. So in a physical way, I think men are great at that as well, showing up, you know. They don't know what to do with a baby or anything like that, you know, but when the baby arrives, okay, this is what I can do this. I can, you know, I can change the nappy. I can be told to get the bottle. I'm okay now. But for me, like the most worrying time was when before the baby was born, you know, because I can't see the baby. There's uncertainty. I'm dependent on a doctor here, you know. But once the baby was born, I was like, okay, I can do this. What you need me to do, you know. So it was kind of like that. I just kept on showing up and being there physically, even though my mind was in lots of other places. So I was there. So yeah, I was open. I was open to everything. I was listening to podcasts. I was open to breath work. I was like, then I'd hear someone like the Wim Hof or sea swimming, or, you know. So I was doing lots of different things to try and be better. And they all add to where I am now. I only took Wim Hof breathwork session at the weekend there with 18 men in the forest, you know. So it's stuff that started 5 years ago, but I am putting it into practice now, even though, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's just really, I have like such pictures in my mind. I cannot imagine that like wheel of thought carousel sort of thing happening. Knowing myself, like, it's funny because I feel like I dedicated the last 4 years of my life to really master the mind and that part of my being. And now the universe just like completely slaps me in the face with, what did you do with your heart, man? Like, did you pay attention to that as well? Like, you know, and like, because this is also with Michael Singer, something that, you know, with that surrendering, it's like, okay, I see that I can really watch the thoughts, you know. I can, you know, sit in the car and I can just see those things come through. And like, I am right now on an island very remote at the northern tip of Germany. It's absolutely beautiful. The nature is absolutely stunning, like something like you wouldn't imagine to be found in Germany. It's really beautiful. And at the same time, so this is the outside, you know, what's happening outside. But what's happening inside, and what this thing has to say constantly, from my past and from a breakup situation. Like, me and my girlfriend broke up after 7 years in March, and so I need to, you know, there's a lot of things that the machine up here has to say about that, while taking just walks and being with what is. And I feel like this aspect is like coming in harmony with it, and listening and developing a loving relationship to this part of my brain, or like this part of my being. And then at the same time, completely sort of like not disconnecting from like, how does that make me actually feel? And, you know, not seeing that as different entities, because I was doing that for such a long time. And now it's more like, yeah, okay, this is what it also means to be human in some way. And what I've been also thinking so much about when it comes to Michael Singer is like, okay, is it more than just, you know, watching those thoughts? It's also about like embodying and appreciating to be human in its full capacity, and to feel deep, deep pain in my heart as a man, like you say, and show up and be of service, with, you know, right now a broken heart and or like a very, you know, being emotionally also very vulnerable, and not letting anything change that. You know, this is, you know, staying open, stay receptive, and like you say, have that trust that this is all happening for us. This is something that was coming up when you were sharing that. And so what I'd be also very curious to explore, having said that, is basically like nature, and the forest. I talked last week to Dr. Stephan Harding, who committed his life to explore Gaia, and he first did it on nature and the healing power of nature. He first explored it scientifically until he found out, and academically until he found out that the answers he was seeking are not to be found on an academic level. He had to have experiences in nature with her to feel and heal. And so you are probably one of the best people to speak to about this. What does nature mean to you, and what has it done for you?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for sharing about your breakup as well. I'm sorry to hear that the relationship is over. Nature to me, okay. So nature is everything that's not man-made. So you have people's nature, you have human nature, you have my nature and your nature. Previously I would have thought nature was out there, nature was definitely a forest anyway, but there's much more to it than that. So just for this kind of context, so forest, so I live in the forest, and I live in a house in the forest with my 3 kids and my wife. So we're in the forest every day, and sometimes I'm working in the forest, most times I'm working in the forest, but then other times there's just going for a walk and being in the forest. So the forest is home to me. I've lived here all my life. So there is no judgment in the forest. It's kind of like a dog. It's like it feels like the forest is excited when I'm there. It's excited to have me in the forest, but yet it's not saying anything to me in verbal ways. There are signs of encouragement that I get when I'm there. Encouragement of being in the forest more in this capacity, in a relaxed way, not having to work in the forest, just to be there. That is kind of re-emphasized by me noticing patterns, let's say. So within there's a pattern of a flight pattern of a bird, or whereas if I'm working I wouldn't notice that. Feathers or pine needles that are on the ground, or any small little thing, or a cone that's been eaten by a squirrel. So although noticing all those things is a type of mindfulness, and is really good for me to acknowledge them, because it's bringing me into the present moment, but it's also reminding me that is there. Something I learned from, one of the main things I learned from the Sacred Sons, and being at the events, and is to let the emotions come through me. So if someone's getting upset about something, and it's a different story than mine, I don't really relate to it. I can either detach from that, or I can let it come through me. And it's more beneficial for me to let it come through me, because it's transmuting. So someone's talking about a breakup with a girlfriend, but I haven't broken up with a girlfriend in 20 something years. So it maybe not be so relevant for me, but it is grief. So there is a learning. There is a transmutation of me seeing this person's process and seeing. So I find that like when I'm at these events, I'm crying quite a lot, and I'm processing my own things, but I don't need to know what they are. Whereas before, there will be a noticing and still in my head, so I'd be logically working out, oh, this guy, and you know, he's broken up with this girlfriend, and he's the poor guy, and I feel like oh, he'll be all right later on. And so it was all logical, and I didn't have much feeling to it. So now I let it go through me, and it's transmuted, and it comes out in a different way, and it helps me process my own stuff. So I've learned that in the forest as well, to kind of let the forest in. Yeah, be open to exploring like the bark on the tree and lying down in the moss. Not caring if I'm getting dirty or insects, or I just feel totally safe, you know. So there's all sorts of science behind this, you know. So I trained as an ecotherapy practitioner and a forest bathing guide. So there'd be phyton sides, which is an oil that the trees emit. So phyton sides would be emitted from the trees, and they would be sharing those. So non-species specific kind of, if any tree is under attack from bugs or wind, you know, they feel stress as well. So there's a sharing of these phyton sides within the atmosphere. So we can benefit from that because we're absorbing it as well. So it takes like 40 minutes for the phyton sides to be in our bloodstream. So that just means that there's a benefit there, which isn't, it is quantifiable because it's evidence-based. You know, forest bathing is evidence-based, but it's not something that we know that we go into the forest and we feel better afterwards. And some people need the science, and then other people just keep on going to the forest because it makes them feel good, you know. But going to the park and staying on the tarmac path and is different. You know, green open spaces are different to densely populated forests, and then the age of the forest as well would impact on what you're receiving from it as well. So what happens then is that, so that's part of what we do as well. We're building a connection between people and the forest. So we get a part of it is like we plant a tree as well sometimes. So there's a relationship being built there. So then there's more of an awareness of using paper, or there's more of an awareness of littering, or, you know, there's more of an awareness that it is like an ecosystem that we are lucky to be in, and not just pounding our way in. We're the dominant ones here. We've killed off all the predators. So we own nature, you know. So when you start to demystify that and connect and to start to build a relationship with nature and with forests, then there's more respect. There's more kind of acknowledgement that it is a living organism. I don't know if that answered your question.
Absolutely, yeah. So beautiful. There's respect, and that it's a dialogue. But it's a thing, like, I would, like, how is it for you very personally when you go out into the forest? Are you able to have those deep connection and experiences every time now, maybe? Or was that developing? Is it different every time? I don't know.
Yeah. It varies. It varies. Yeah, I guess that we've shared a lot within myself and the forest, have shared a lot. So during the time with my daughter, I would have been going out in the forest, probably the most I've ever gone out into the forest. And I kind of thought there, because I'd grown up, I would have bled and cried and got sick and everything in the forest, you know. So like everything, like, well, not everything, but a lot of emotions have been expressed in the forest. Especially as a kid, you know, playing on my own, you know, there was a loneliness part, there was an abandonment part, there was a neglect kind of part that I was able to play with no parents there, and I was maybe too young to be playing in the forest. So there's a part of, you know, there's lots of different emotions, lots of different sharing of experiences. Yeah, so there would be screaming. I chant in the forest a bit. I tried to hum. So to get into the heart space, so to get out of the head and into a processing kind of space, I feel like there needs to be an energetic, somatic, vibrational release, let's say. So that can be done through drumming. So then I'd hold the drum to my heart, the side of it to my heart, and while I'm drumming, that was really good for grief. When my dad died, so that helped me a lot to move and ease pain that was around my heart. Chanting, singing, screaming, shouting, playing music. So there's lots of different things, shaking, dancing. There's lots of different things like that, but I think that they're very important for men. I think they kind of come a bit more naturally to women. But there's a lot of taking stock of where I was beforehand, and then expressing where I wanted to be when I was in the forest. So I couldn't touch my toes, or my back was always sore, you know. So then I'm in the forest and it's quiet and I'm at peace, but there are certain physical aspects that are restricting me, and those physical aspects are linked to stored or stagnant emotion. So how do I access them? And I did that in the forest through lots of different ways: hanging out of trees, climbing a tree, connecting with my inner child, making mandalas, making a fort, camping, sleeping out, fire building. You know, so the forest is, I suppose I'm initiating these things, but when I'm out there, they just come in, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really can't wait to be like doing and attending those events as well myself with Sacred Sons. I signed up now for the Convergence in LA in October, so I'll be flying out, and I'll be hopefully I will be spending lots of time with Vince at his cabin up in the woods, where he's also holding retreats. And yeah, because I'm spending a lot of time in nature, and it's coming very intuitively to me. It always has. I haven't been drawn to cities, although my life has basically forced me in some way to be close to cities. Now that I'm getting a little bit more older and I'm getting more flexible with how I earn my money, I start, really choosing nature as my go-to. And yeah, I'm yearning for those experiences more and more. It's like a drug, something. It's like I had very deep experiences for me, it's ocean as well, and mountains that do a lot for me. And right now I'm at the ocean, and it's I'm just craving that these very like it's. So when I was asking you where you got your trust from, this is where I have my trust in life from. When I'm and I had like 2 days ago, I had one of those experiences as well. I was listening to your podcast, and And then I was consciously also, because sometimes I'll overconsume and stuff, and I'll just like take stuff in, and then I think I basically reached a point where I was like, okay, I think I got what has been said, and then I unplugged, and I was just like literally standing at the beach, like with my legs in the water, and it was just like the waves were washing over me, and it really needs to build up in some shape or form. It doesn't, it's not immediate, but for me it took, I cannot say how long, but basically the experience built up, and at some point it was like a meditation. I was just like, oh wow, you've been taking care of me all this time. I'm safe. And how gentle the waves were coming, and the warm sunlight, and how the sun was reflecting on the water. And it's just like, and basically I had a feeling that the ocean was saying to me, like, I've always been here. Can you see it now? Can you feel it now? I got you. And that's why I was asking how it is for you, because now every time I'm going in the dunes as well and on the beach, I'm like, give me that experience again, you know. It's like I wanna be one with it as well. But sometimes it'll just be a nice day in nature without this experience. So I'm yearning for also some sort of initiation process for myself, and tools that help me maybe also to connect with this more regularly, because this is where I feel like receive tremendous healing, so much healing. Oh my God. And like, and this is also where being a man comes in for me. Having such a strong build, having such a strong relationship to my mind and my masculine, quote unquote, like action based and getting stuff done. But this like receiving love in the heart and connecting to my heart is something that I feel like nature can teach me so well. And so I definitely, it's funny because like before the US, I'll be spending time in the UK, and I would love to visit the forest as well. Because I feel like there's something waiting. Yeah.
I'm going to Convergence in Scotland and Edinburgh. I think they're on at the same time. LA in Scotland. Yeah, the bluescapes, because the forests are greenscapes, and then the sea is bluescapes. So there's a whole evidence-based practice around that as well. But right where the land meets the sea, so where the waves are crashing, that's a portal. So that's like accessible to. You are more accessible, or the downloads are more accessible. You know, you're more open to messages coming in, messages of guidance. At that point where the wave is crashing, and then if the sea is going out, you know, if it's low tide or high tide, if the sea is going out, then it's a good time to release stuff that doesn't serve you anymore, or then you can bring in new experiences or positivity when the sea is coming in. So that's something that I learned from my time on my own down at the sea, and then noticed something, and then it's like being in the shower, you know, like stuff comes in, and you're like, all right, and then I start to, you know, Google it, and then it turns out that this is a thing, you know. So okay, so it's nice to have. It's nice to have lots of different tools, you know, to pick and choose from, to access these more divine thoughts, or access the more true me. You know, instead of having only going to the pub, or, you know, eating bad food, or, you know, whatever, you know, those go to, like the kind of not so helpful soothing techniques, you know, whereas I get great soothing from being near the sea, you know. So yeah.
When speaking about men's work and working with men and sacred sons, what is something you what changed for you as a man within those circles?
How long have we got? It's not quantifiable what's changed, and apart from not being quantifiable, it's not even able to be put into words. It's not. It's just an experience, and each time is different. I'm just back from the UK. I'm just back from Devon in England, and it was 5 days there at an EMX. Nice support facilitator there, and so there was a kind of a different aspect. I was noticing the other lead facilitators, and so I was on a learning kind of mode. But I mean, what are my learnings of being a man? I mean, I get great inspiration from being around all the men, mostly the leaders, but the participants as well. I mean, yeah, it could just go on. There was a guy there that was deaf, and he was spending 4 days with us. I mean, you know, like that type of thing is going on all the time. There's a guy with one arm, or there's a guy in a wheelchair, or you can't not be affected by that. And they're showing up, they're doing the work, they're taking responsibility for themselves. That's inspirational, you know, regardless of what mindset you're in. I mean, yeah, that's only a micro little thing, but there was, I don't know, thousands of moments like that that I would be aware of. And also, so they say you'd be integrating this for the rest of your life, and I'm still integrating the EMX I did last year. Things just spring up in my mind, or people that I haven't connected with, and they're messaging me, or, you know, so there's the contacts, there's the support. I suppose there's a few, yeah, okay, now I'm just kind of, yeah, there's probably a few things. So a few things would be, I can go anywhere in the world and know that I have somewhere to stay. That's what I've got from Sacred Sons. I've never even met the guys, but if I picked out a country, I know that there'll be a Sacred Son there, and I can go and sleep on his couch or anything. Not that I will, but like that's an option. That gives me great comfort to know that there is this global support, and the guys want the best for me. You know, it's not. They want to see me succeed in anything that I do. Another one would be, I want to be better. Whereas I think for a long time I thought I was doing okay, and I thought I was doing good, but being around these men, like, I just want to be better. They're just embodying the work, living at a different level, like intuitive, tapped in, curious, able to pass on knowledge. Yeah, just being around them, not even having a conversation, but just being in their presence. It's divine masculine. Like, it's, yeah. So that's what I get from it, just being around the leaders. I want to be better and fulfill more of my purpose. There you go.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, going into that question, reflecting on with myself, like it's very hard also to put into words why do I want to be doing this? Like, I don't know. It's just like when I was, I don't know, spending time with Vince, he was just like, and he said it literally the same way at another talk. He was like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, what does he has something. There's something about men who have been looking inside and doing this work. This is all I can say. And I don't know. And the more I see, and I don't know, I just feel that this is something I need to be doing. I need this initiation. I need to do this work. It's just, that's actually all I can say about it as well. And I feel like it's I mean, so much. Sorry.
Most men need it, but don't realize it. I know for me, my dad was in AA for like 62 years, but then not being on alcohol or taking alcohol had an effect on him also, you know. So, and then his dad should have been in AA, but he was an alcoholic, and he would have beaten him, and then his dad. So it's like there's like 5 generations there of something that was very distorted of what a man is. But before that, it was good, I feel, you know, that there was living in community, there was tribal, there was a flexibility within the masculine kind of archetype, and that time has come again now. So it's completely within our power to dictate what that is now, because it's clear that it didn't work for the last 5 generations. So now that's what I'm doing, consciously doing, is redefining and setting a new template there, which isn't based on what my dad did. It's based on what I see the qualities are.
Can you share a little bit about that? What that means? Because we explored a little bit, you know, with your daughter and women, what that meant for you. What does it mean for you to be a man right now? What are those qualities?
I think, okay. So I feel like being a man now is a very unique time. That there is a lot of, see, it varies so much, you know, if you are open to taking responsibility for your own actions, or if you just want to stay in denial of all that. So I'm not too sure if it would kind of apply to a lot of people. I guess that my understanding of, so anything is possible now. So we're redefining the masculine, because, you know, all the one-liners that you would have heard before are just irrelevant now, really, you know, about the big boys don't cry and all that stuff, you know, the usual. Whereas, and looking after number one, you know, and all that stuff, and it's selfish. So if you go away for a weekend at a men's retreat, you know, it's selfish or something like that. So, I mean, there does come a point where you kind of laugh at those things, and you know, but there is a point before where I would have believed that for most of my life. So the opportunity there is to redefine it, and we have to redefine it because it's linked to the planet, and it's linked to our children. It's linked to our health, and the example has been in real time for me, seeing my dad sacrificing his health to provide for us, and basically not having the self-care. So he had like a quadruple bypass when he was 48, I mean, there's only 4 arteries going into the heart, and all of them are blocked, basically. So it's like stress related. The food was kind of okay, but so my conclusion is that it's stress related. So the examples are there, and am I going down the same route? Because he would have been gone down a similar route to his dad, and he would have gone down a similar route to his dad. So there is an opportunity there to break that chain, and I'm trying to do my part, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why my soul is here at this time. It's a very special time to be here.
Yes.
There is a huge impact that can be made, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I'm not sure if I got the question across in the right way, but like what does it because like I get totally what you're saying, but what is it right now for you what does it mean to redefine it? What is it for you? What values does that come with, or experiences?
Yeah, it can be in simple things. So taking responsibility for myself, that's a big one. And until I did that, I didn't realize that I wasn't taking responsibility for myself. I thought I was. But then I realized that I was asking my wife quite a few questions, you know, and then I would place I'd place the bits of rubbish on the bin, but I wouldn't empty the bin. You know, it's like, you know, kind of thinking, oh, someone else will do it. Or it's like, but I'm the man in the house, and there's like 3 kids, and then my wife, and she's doing lots of other things. So there was kind of passing the book, but I thought that was okay, you know. So then there was a realization that that's not okay. So it comes through in little ways like that. Taking the initiative to make dinner without being hassled to make the dinner. I mean, these are the most accessible, practical ways that it comes through on a daily basis, because defining the masculine is like it's happening all the time. And also I can go off and read books and listen to podcasts and stuff, self-development type of aspect, but it's still, a lot of it's logical and not embodied. So there is definitely, that's probably the step that is bypassed most. You know, so when I'm having circles, there's guys talking about all these things, you know, breath work or any self-help kind of tools. And then I'm saying, so how often are you doing that? I say, oh, I did that years ago, you know, and it might have been for a month or so. So they're not doing it. It's not a ritual, even though they know it's good for themselves. They don't have to do it as a ritual. I'm just saying that any of the guys in Sacred Sons, they all have a morning practice. So I have a morning practice that is kept to, and there's flexibility within it of varying it and stuff. It's not rigid. But when I do this, I feel better. When I do this, I'm a better man. It impacts the whole day. There's a different standard that's been achieved that I'm holding myself accountable to when I do this. So then the responsibility of like having a lie-in or doing the morning practice, and I take responsibility to do that, to put that into action. And because we're so powerful that it impacts friends, family, parents, siblings, children. Like, it has a knock-on effect, everything. The power is just emanating from us, and then people start to inquire, you know, how is this happening, and what's going on for you, and, you know, so then that's the time to share instead of trying to force it on people. I think it's taking responsibility for myself is probably the biggest part. and embodying the learnings.
Yeah. Beautiful. So true. Something I received very strongly from listening to you is that I get the feeling that something that you have embodied very much is holding space. And you've, I don't know where, but you've shared a little bit about like the discrepancy of like your experiences also with your daughter that you and her made with therapy, what she needed, and what she received there, and what you've learned also from that. So basically what kind of therapy and holding space is needed for us to really heal, and really, you know, evolve. And I would just love to have you share a little bit about what does that mean for you right now to hold space and to deep listen, and to deeply listening to people, and to have, you know, have them have their process. And what sort of role do you have as someone who hosts holding space? What is the, you know, how does that look like and feel like for you? What have you learned there? I would love to have you share a little bit about that if you feel like it.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's a great question. My mind was going in different areas when you were talking there. Yeah, okay. So the forest bathing training. So forest bathing is bathing your senses in the forest atmosphere. That training was, I still put everything into practice regardless of if it's in a room or not. So I became comfortable with someone crying and not needing to give them a hug. The hug was only for me. You know, that's what I was noticing. And I was still able to hold space with practice when someone was getting very upset, and no matter what they're saying. Because that's really awkward. You know, there was an awkwardness and a feeling like I need to do something here, and, you know, it's okay, and I know how you feel. And so energetically, I was getting more aware of my surroundings and my own energy system and other people's energetic system, through Reiki and through kundalini activation and through different kind of energy healing modalities as well. So when someone was crying and talking about, let's say the father had died recently, and they're overwhelmed by emotion and they start to say this, then I noticed that I was able to be calm and receive the message as they're sharing, and not need to give an answer. But the body felt compelled to go over and give them a hug. So there was practice needed within that, which was done through forest bathing and through ecotherapy as well, which is using the forest. So throughout that learning process, it was really comforting to have the forest there, because, you know, we learned that the forest is so it's divided into three: the participants, the facilitator, and the forest. So straight away, I'm not under pressure. You know, whereas if you think you're doing something as a facilitator, and this is my circle, and I'm running the show here, you know, it's a lot of pressure, and then you also feel like you have to talk more as well, and have answers. So there's not much wiggle room if you're the teacher. So being the student is where you want to be at all the time. because there's curiosity and there's learning and there's growth, whereas the teacher needs to go off and research something that they mightn't really mind and they, care about, and then impart that in a way that someone's going to remember it. So I really got comfortable with someone getting upset in front of me and the beauty of that. And it may be at that time or later on, but there would be an acknowledgement of how I enabled that to happen. And I can see energetically the process coming to a close. And a lot of time they apologize for crying, which is not, so they're kind of shutting it back down again without a final little release, because they're being insecure about how they look. I'm an ugly crier, sorry about this, so there's still more processing there, but they've just shortened it a little bit. So it's like being aware of those things. But the normal reaction of the body is to go in and give a hug, which then is like a conversation where someone's talking about the grief and their dad dying, and then I talk about my dad dying, and then it's not their conversation anymore. It's not their topic. I've just taken the power away from them. So that's the same as the hug. The hug is only for me. So there's that part of holding space, that when I'm comfortable in that space, I feel like their energy system, they can acknowledge that, and they feel like they can say anything and express anything and share anything, because I'm comfortable with whatever comes up. What else? So that will be what I learned from forest bathing. What do I get from space holding now? I'm learning all the time. Like it's incredible. At the end of, I said we do a 4-week men's circle, or we do forest bathing walk, or energy healing sessions. I do some of the energy healing sessions with my wife. She's an amazing Reiki practitioner, and so we do some one-on-one sessions with someone as well. So we work together sometimes. But when people are leaving, I'm kind of thinking, geez, I got more out of it than they did, And even though they're kind of highly complementary, and you can see a change in their body as well as their system, I'm still thinking, wow, I'm getting paid for this, so there's so much learning and calm and peace that I get, So I did a men's immersion day on Saturday, and today is Tuesday, and it's like I'm still feeling the sense of accomplishment. My thoughts are way less. I'm like, more peaceful. All from that day spent, and not having the to-do list of, we need to do this now, and we need to go on and do this, and then we're doing the breath work, and then we're doing ice baths or whatever it is. Not being efficient with the time. It's just like things are flowing, and I'm really present in that moment. I'm present in that time. And most of the time, that's what people want. If you're raising children, they just want you to be present. So that kind of presence has stayed with me. So there's an after effect of it as well. So I learned that along the way, that it has to be reciprocal. So it can't just be me guiding someone in something, in a space, and me having answers, or me. I have to be getting something from it. So before I did a men's circle, I wasn't getting as much from it, because they didn't want to let new participants in, and then they didn't. So I said, "Who's taking next week?" And they were like, "You are," And so they were kind of turning up as to be entertained, So they didn't want to take a week themselves, and they didn't want new guys to come in. So there was a comfort level that had been achieved through quite a prolonged discomfort level, and and it didn't serve me anymore. So I had to change the structure for it to benefit me as well then. Because what I noticed was other people are holding space and they have to take time off. I remember doing a couple of circles, and you'd be 3 weeks, and then the person would need to take 2 or 3 weeks off, and then they'd do 3 weeks again. So they'd be burnt out because they were just giving or providing something, and they maybe weren't receiving so much from it. So I found a balance now in the last couple of years. So if I'm inspired by something or motivated by some aspect of CBT or a type of breath work or movement, animal flow movement or something like that, I bring that through. So then I would learn about it and bring that into the day or into the circle. So I'm excited to share that, or I'm excited about something and I'm able to, so I mean, that's reciprocal for me, instead of it just being a single structure that's just giving,
Yeah. Yeah. It shows in your work, Luke. That's all I can say right now. Yeah. What we were speaking about earlier. This is where the rubber hits the road and the work pays off. When you can hold space like this, you can have conversations like this. And so I'm learning as we are speaking right now. There's a lot happening. Thank you.
The rubber hits the road. I like that one.
Yeah. So, towards the finishing line, I would love to ask you, what are you proud of?
Proud of myself. Yeah, proud of myself for showing up and doing the work that I think is what the work is needed right now in this moment. Even though it doesn't make sense quite a lot of the time, it's very uncomfortable. I still keep on showing up, and it's in question why I keep on why I'm doing this. Like, that comes in all the time. Am I doing this for my kids? Am I doing this for myself? Am I getting better? Maybe I'm not where I should be. So there's lots of doubt that comes in, and then I use my tools to kind of gain clarity and acknowledge that I am proud of myself, that I keep going on this path, and I'm proud that I am in tune with my purpose, what I feel my purpose is. I'm proud of my kids as well. I'm proud of my wife. So I kind of just think that we're this unit that are going along, trying to be better, trying to affect others, trying to be in service, trying to heal ourselves. So one of my goals was to help people connect to nature, and then in turn connect to themselves. So I feel like I do that. Any other expansion on that words wise kind of makes it complicates the whole thing, so I kind of just stick with that. So I'm proud of myself for simplifying things as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. What are you looking forward to?
Ooh, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to a couple of events that are coming up. I am looking forward to connecting more deeply with my sons, especially. So I have a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old, and my daughter's 18. But I feel, I feel like there's quite a lot of inner child, maybe kind of a growing up too quick in my own life. So within me, connecting with my kids, with my 2 sons especially, I feel like there's quite a lot of healing there for me. Like playing with them and allowing myself to play. I think that's a part that I've been denying for quite a while. Being immature and, just with the responsibilities of life and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to connecting more deeply with my 2 sons in whatever way they feel is right, because I'm guided by them, really.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Thank you so much. And before we close, I want to just open the space for you to share whatever. If there's something else you would like to share, also when it comes to the healing forest, if there's something you feel like the conversation hasn't touched on yet, if there's something that moves you, just want to open up the space before we close. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I guess that, marketing wise, the Healing Forest is on Instagram, and the website is thehealingforest.ie. So that's it. But I don't really I'm not great at marketing, so I don't kind of promote when I should promote. But throughout the conversation, I wanted to, little questions would pop up that I wanted to ask you. None kind of stick with me right now, but I was wondering if I could ask you a question.
Yes, absolutely.
When do you feel was a pivotal moment for you becoming a man?
When realizing that living from a place where I lived from wasn't working anymore, was this year. It was this year, and I kept repeating the same patterns and keep hitting the same roadblocks. And talking about taking responsibility, I realized that there are things I haven't taken responsibility for. And one of the main areas is my masculinity. I have utterly neglected this part of myself for a very long time, and I'm doing my best to navigate it with compassion for myself and empathy and patience, which is hard sometimes. But I know I'll get there, and I also I know that I am right where I should be right now, right here. So, yeah, that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for tapping into that as well, because that was really heartfelt. So I felt that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's hitting. It's a lot of stuff you could have said, but this one, it cuts right through. Yeah, it's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. That's my process. Yeah. It was a great pleasure sharing time and space with you, Luke. I deeply appreciate you, the work that you're doing, and it would be an honor to visit you and to spend some time in the forest. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Anytime you're around. We have a spare place to stay. We have a little cottage here as well, so you're always welcome to come over and stay. Thank you so much for making the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Your beautiful questions as well. Yeah, so much care involved.
Thank you.